Okay, now it's time to assemble your Dive Talk Go. Like we've mentioned many times, no shortcuts to this process. We always use a checklist, no matter how many times you filled it out. So let's just go right into step number one.
Let's do it.
And step number one, and you can download our checklist. We're gonna provide that to you, no problem. It's also in our manual. Step number one, mouthpiece, check for tears. Now I like to know the why. So Gus is checking for tears. Why is it important not to have a tear, especially in a rebreather?
Yeah, because if we have even a little tear and water starts trickling in, you're gonna flood it.
Exactly, and we don't want leaky air coming out, right? Because in a rebreather, we want to keep that loop volume consistent. Looks
Perfect.
good? All right. Next, very important, we are going to check the mushroom valves. You're going to look at both of them and simply inspect them. So while Gus is looking at the mushroom valves, what are they? The mushroom valves let air only go in one direction. So he's checking them, and I want you to notice that this is the top. So the mushroom valve is in such a way that when Gus exhales, the air will come only this way, which you'll see in a little while. We'll direct it to go into the sorb, and when he inhales, it can only let the air in that way.
Yeah,
That's
look.
really important.
Watch this. So when I inhale through here, exhale through here.
Very important that that air is only circulating one way to be sure that carbon dioxide is being removed.
That's right.
Okay, very important, Gus. Time to check all the O-rings, and there's quite a bit of them. So while you're starting that, let me read what the checklist says. Inspect them all, lube them all with proper lube. And you're gonna look at the loop O-rings, the scrubber head O-rings, which are right here. Those are the scrubber head O-rings. He's looking at the loop O-rings as well. We talked about those are gonna be here. There's another set here. We're inspecting them. We're making sure they're lubed. There's no cracks, that they are in fact there. And the counter lungs have O-rings, right? So Gus is looking at those now. And just like the checklist says, visually, he's looking at them, and run your finger over them to feel for nicks, bumps, and any imperfections. Do they need a little lube?
Good. No, so far so good.
Right? Sometimes you're gonna have plenty of excess lube on them. You don't have to over lube it. Just,
You don't have to do it every time.
not every time, but you can feel they're kind of like, if you can feel the lube is on there. That's what I'm trying to say. And there could be dust particles or sorb particles, so you want to get it nice and clean, just like he's doing. And that's going to make sure this rebreather is air and, most importantly, watertight.
Perfect.
Okay, our O-rings are good. I'm going to step number 3, fill the scrubber. Now we only use one kind. What kind do we use and why?
812.
812.
Size, yep.
And here is the scrubber, so you can take a look at that. He's going to fill it to a certain point in a certain way, and he's going to pack it. So it says fill to just below, to right at the fill line, and then place the screen and secure the lid.
Yep, you can see the fill line right here. That line is the fill line, so we're gonna fill to that.
And I would help with that. I really would help you with that.
It's only 45 pounds, you don't wanna?
Well, no, I don't want to. I'll help. Let me help.
All right, go ahead.
I'll help. Ready?
Just zoom in
Hold
this
on.
one. Zoom in.
Okay. Okay. This should not be happening on your sorb, so I have no idea why, but.
It's brand new sword.
No. Yeah, but you already took off the little tear thing,
No,
so we
I think
cannot
it's-
open our sorb, and I would leave this part in. Yeah. What?
Would he take the key?
Okay, here we go. We brought in a strong guy. Here we go. Watch him just knock it. Wait, what? How did that?
I forgot to hit it with my purse.
You were. Wait, let me just look at one thing. That arm.
That's-
yeah,
no, that's-
okay, not good.
okay.
And oh, okay. All right. All right. So, by the way, it is important to keep the sorb always closed, just by the way. We don't want that gaining moisture.
Wait,
and
wait,
being
wait,
used,
wait,
so-
wait, 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 wait.
Retake.
Are you sure you don't want to help with this? Oh, I got it. We'll edit
That's
this
why I
part. We'll
compared
edit.
the bicep of both of you. Okay, so Gus is gonna pour it in. And while he's doing it, let me make a couple of comments. He's gonna pour it all the way up and it's gonna make like a little mound, right? You'll see. You gotta estimate to where that fill line is. So I'll show you why he's doing that part. See how I'm flattening it out? Before I do any kind of packing, which means I'm trying to get rid of the channeling, because it's gonna settle and go down. So right now, it almost looks like it's right at the fill line, right? But watch what happens. If I put this lid on, because I think it's important that you understand, we want it perfect because when I pack it, and you can just hit around it, you could use a mallet, you could frankly use your hand. You see how it's going down too much? Now look, can you see how it's, first of all, it's not even, and second of all, look how much lower that went.
Ceiling, yeah.
Right? And we want it perfect because we have these springs. These springs are going to be just in the proper place where we want this pushing down and tight. So if it's too low, that could be channeling issue and that could not make this seal properly. So he needs a little more sorb.
So if you see right here, we want this screen to be at the line
After packing.
so no sorb makes it through. If you're too low, now you have, I'll show it from this side, see you have a little gap where the sorb can come out. So
And
that's
by-
the difference between too low and high enough.
And by the way, that's by design because it gets narrower as you come up, and that has to do with the direction that we want the air to flow in this axial scrubber so it gets properly cleaned. That's all by design. And he's just estimating that's probably a pretty good estimate, right? So we're gonna repack it, just spreading it out. All right, pack it and see if that now gets right to the line. And I would be pretty exact on this. You don't need to overpack it, but we're trying to
Might need a
prevent,
little more.
we're trying to prevent channeling, everybody, so you need to pack it. Channeling, it simply means there's a channel where the air could go through and not hit the sorb, therefore causing a CO2 breakthrough. We don't want that to happen. Ooh, that's gonna be a lot. That's gonna be some serious packing.
I feel good. I feel good about
You
this.
see, let's see if he's right. I'll do this. Will he be able to pack it so it goes right down to that line? Make it even.
All right.
All right, screen
We're
on.
about to find out.
Pack it down. Here we go. I think it's gonna be close. I think it's good. Ah. It's just causing vibration by doing this. It's a little vibration.
Pretty good.
It looks pretty good. There's the line pretty much even all the way around. Notice that you don't have the gaps anymore for the where the sorb can come through.
Yeah, so here, I'll spin it. You can leave the camera there.
Nice and even. It's right at the line.
Yep. All right.
Very good.
The other thing I like to do is I like to run my finger to remove like any dust or anything like that, because remember, anything like past this, you're gonna be breathing in. So just run your finger to remove like any dust left from the sorb.
Yeah, it's a good tip. Okay, next step, we're on step number 5. We are going to attach the counter lungs.
But we're not gonna seal it first?
So,
Step number 4?
attach the counter lungs by placing inside of the BC.
No. We missed this part, put the lid
Oh,
on.
we have it out. Sorry.
We have to seal it.
It'd be a little hard to attach the counter lungs without that. He's already lubed it. And look, I want to show you what he's doing here though. Don't go too fast. Notice we have clips. You just line it up to right where all the clips are. There's 3 clips. There's one over here, and there's one there. They should all line up perfectly.
Yep.
And then it's a flat push because you have O-rings. You don't want to crimp it, so push it down. You should feel like a double bump for both O-rings. And this should not be hard. It should be easy. You can see it sealed down, and how about that
Watch
one?
here.
Okay.
See how that action closes the gap, makes it sealed.
And again, when we pushed it down, it was like a boom, boom, both O-rings sat evenly. Okay,
All right,
now
counter
we're going to
lungs.
attach the counter lungs. So here we go. There's a certain methodology to this. Do you have the right one?
So if you notice, from the front, both counter lungs look the same. But in the back, you have an OPV. The overpressure valve goes on the right counter lung. The right if you're on your right hand.
That's right. Okay,
Let's do
so,
right first.
and while he's doing it, let me show you. There's a spring mechanism, okay? You push this in, and now he can gently insert to get both those O-rings and make sure they're not crimped. You can let it out, and you may have to angle it a little because
You can move it.
because this is going to connect to this bottom hole right here, and it's going to be on an angle and pretty much lined up with your lungs. We talked about this in later modules where you'll see that very important for creating a great work of breathing, less hydrostatic pressure resistance on the breathing. You don't have to move that air far in and out, and you don't have to push it up. It's just right where your lungs are. Great design.
Okay.
Looks like a nice angle.
Now for
The
the
other
left
one
one. So once again, push the spring down, and then see I have my flat hand back here, and I just push in, not too hard, and then release for a secure push. I will angle it, and then screw the link.
And we have holes right where they should go. The bigger hole is what you're going to attach
From the
to
BC
your
there.
BC, so the smaller hole is for the counter lungs.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. Very good. And about the same angle. Done. Next step. Very important, and I'll tell you the why. You can start working on it, Gus. It's the stereo check. So, these are your loop hoses. That's the DSV. You've got to attach the loop hose to the DSV. Be very careful that you don't crimp the O-rings in this process. That's easy to do. And there's a clip. It should go in really easy. If you have to push hard and force it, something's wrong. It should be a simple boom, just with this thumb. Not hard to do. That's a good sign that that O-ring is not crimped. So he's putting it in evenly.
And I'm kind of shaking it a little bit to make sure that the O-ring doesn't get crimped or in one place or another. So if you see my hand, I'm moving it as I'm pushing, and finally goes in. And I try to stay in line, so you can see. Here's your other clip.
Okay, now that that's assembled, we're going to do what's called a stereo check. Now this is a purpose of this is very important. It's a recheck of the mushroom valve that you can only, when you breathe in, that air will go this direction, and when you exhale, air will go that direction. It's also checking the loop hoses themselves to make sure that you don't have any little micro holes and so forth with air coming out. So go ahead.
So the way I'm
one
going to do
cheek at
this
a
is,
time.
I am going to have one that is going to be blocked, which is the active side. So if I'm going to blow out, the right side is going to be blocked. And the way I do it, I just put it against my face to make a seal. But I do want to listen on the other side. So this one I'm going to put right to my ear, because if I'm blowing out and this side is sealed, I don't want to hear a leak from this side. All right, so here's how it's going to work.
You see how that's firmed up?
Good. Now I'm going to try the other way.
So now he's inhaling. And he should not be able to inhale, and he shouldn't be able to exhale when you're
Yep.
checking that one, right?
And you can actually hear the mushroom valve being like,
Yeah.
you know, sealing.
Let me just make sure you understand that. When this one is against your cheek and you inhale, you should not be able to inhale.
If it's a proper seal, correct?
If it's a proper seal. When this one is against your cheek and you exhale, you should not be able to exhale. That's proving the mushroom valves are letting air go in the right direction, and your loop hoses don't have holes in them.
And one final test, if you want to do it, is you put it back in your mouth, you seal both sides, and you shouldn't be able to Exhale or inhale.
exhale.
And that's to look for micro holes, as Woody mentioned. Completely sealed.
Okay. Well, guess what? We have to connect this to the rebreather. We call it attaching the breathing hoses. So, pretty logical place to do it. Look, it has O-rings. Whenever you have O-rings, Gus has got to be really careful that they go in and not crimp, not pinch. And he's got to get it to where he can start threading this, right? So, shouldn't be hard to turn this either. If it's really hard, you could be cross-threading it, and then you could strip this. But that looked like it was nice and easy and perfect. And you want the hoses to be laying down after
The way
he
you're
does
going
this,
to be breathing.
The way you're going to be breathing. So look, see how he's got this faced up? Just imagine that his face is right there. So that's perfect. He's attached them exactly in the direction of the mouthpiece.
Check. This will spin. All right.
Pinches it in, right to where it's on the threads. Easy, you can tell he's not forcing it all the way though. Make sure it's watertight. That's
it.
really good. Now I do a couple of other things. You can see this right here. You want to make sure these are touching all the way against this. In other words, we don't want these loops to be able to pull out. And we didn't show you this, but they have a, what's the right word for this? What is this? Something that squeezes
It's a
them.
hose clamp, yeah.
That's a hose clamp. A pair of pliers you can use to squeeze these together and make
If you
sure
feel
they're,
that they're loose,
they should
you can
not,
squeeze it.
they should not be loose. It's really tight, right? Because you don't want these hoses to pull off. Okay, so he has done that successfully. So now what you are going to do is you are going to attach your dive computer.
Great.
It's a Shearwater 4-pin dive computer. That's over on the left
pins.
side. Okay, so it just continues to continue with the dive computer. You're gonna turn it on, you're gonna check your batteries, you're gonna set all your open circuit and closed circuit gases, you're gonna reset your stack timer. That just took you through steps 9, 10, and 11.
Yep. So it's on air, 21%. The sensors are reporting 20 or 21%, which is the percentage of oxygen in the air, which
Perfect.
is great. And yeah, ready to go. Battery's full.
And he's got the right gas, he said that, battery's full. And how about the stack timer? Can you make sure you reset that?
I have my stack timer on the other computer, on the secondary computer.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's fine. You can either have what is a stack timer? I think we should say that. A stack timer is a timer that tells you when the last time you changed your sorb. We told you that for our unit, we don't want you exceeding, it's rated for 2.5 hours. So guess what? That's a timer saying you've used this sorb for X amount of time.
Correct.
Once it's at 2.5 hours, it's going to let you know. That means no matter what you may think, you're dumping the sorb and you're putting in new sorb. Okay, computer is attached, so now we're going into step 12. We're going to attach your O2 cylinder, properly route the O2 hoses, first stage, and connect the O2 bottle. So we'll show you all those parts. And here is the first stage. I've mentioned this in another module, but I will tell you that this is designed, while we're doing it, this part here is designed to where it's blocked. This is a Mike Young design, so that it is affected by pressure. Why do we want this affected by pressure, unlike a normal first stage? We actually want the constant mass flow, which means it's constantly trickling in oxygen. Ours is set to about a 0.7 liter per minute, and we want that reduced as we go deeper.
Makes sense.
Yep. Simple strap, he'll tighten it up nice and tight. You can see the tension now on it. And he's gonna clip it back. Oh, that's real tight. Boom, right? And look, shouldn't wiggle, it shouldn't turn. And I also like it where Gus put it. I like to have the handle down, and he's gonna now attach. And by the way, he has a transmitter so he can read his O2 pressure right on his computer. It's a shear water transmitter. It's very nice because it's protected down there by the counter lung. Okay, now he's going to attach the other end
Yep.
into the manual add valve for O2.
And you can route this through the front or through the back, depending on how you have it set up.
And then you come around and it's tucked in behind there, and then he'll come over and just screw it in. Looks nice and streamlined this way. Again, you don't want to cross thread it, so it should screw in very easily.
It should.
That looks right. There's an O-ring in there as well. There's a little O-ring in there, so you may want to put that O2 lube on it every once in a while. That's it. It's connected to the O2 MAV. Okay, we're just going to keep going. So easy. So normally we would have the checklist printed here and we would write down some information. What we need you to do, Gus, is we need you to check your PO2 and capture the millivolts in air.
Okay.
The expected range on air is between 8 and 13 millivolts. Obviously 13 is perfection.
Right.
And we're a little bit at altitude, but are you getting 21% here?
Yep.
So he's got 21%. All three sensors are reading. It can be it can be that little differential. And look at the millivolts, all very close. We need to write this down because we're going to use this later in a linearity check. So we're going to call that 11, 11, and 11. Just for the sake of ease.
11.
Straight 11s for the sake of ease of this, okay? But you would want to write it down to the decimal
The
point.
proper number, yes.
Okay, now what are you going to do? You're going to turn on your oxygen, you're going to check your pressure, you're going to turn off your oxygen, and you should hopefully watch the pressure drop. So first turn it on, and it should automatically, with the constant mass flow, start filling up the counter lungs.
You can hear it too.
Okay, and how's the pressure? Do you have it set up in that transmitter?
No.
Okay, so normally he would have this transmitter connected to his computer. You would see it, or you could have an SPG.
Yep.
It ships with a little SPG. Do we have one?
Yep.
We have, okay. Do we have one around
like
that
as
we
an
could grab?
example?
Yeah, just a quick example. I'll show you what it ships with. Little SPG, a little button gauge. That'll just show you what your O2 pressure is. So, right like that. You can sit right like this. And look, it's nice. You can turn easily.
Right.
You're diving, you can look at it. Simple, simple. Okay? So, now what we're gonna do, I also do this. That's all fine. I just push the MAV button just to even, is it working? Is it connected? And it is. Now, if it turns off the oxygen,
You can see it climbing already because the oxygen circulating through the system. It went from 21 to climbing to 40s now.
it's gonna bump up high because
Yep.
this is 100% pure oxygen.
Perfect. Okay.
You turn it off, you should start to see the pressure fall.
If we open the
This
little-
is to verify that the leaky valve is functioning, right? So by turning it off, it's no longer gonna continue to leak O2 into the system.
Yeah, there is some pressure on it, but you can see now I'm pressing the button and nothing is happening.
And if we gave it another couple minutes, it would start to drop. These numbers are still going up because it's circulating the O2, but it would start to fall.
Yep.
Okay. So the next step is a positive pressure check of your system. So what we're gonna do, he'll do it, I'll talk about it. All rebreathers need to hold positive pressure. to assure there are no leaks. How is he going to do that? He's going to pressurize his counter lungs by blowing into them with air. So you want to assure that these lungs are holding pressure for at least 1 minute. And notice that he filled it up to the point where the overpressure valve triggered. So for 1 minute, we're looking and we can do a digital check. Our PO2 and our millivolts are holding, and they should not drop if it's holding a positive. And the counter lungs should stay very firm.
It's dropping big time.
And it is not holding a
there's gotta be a leak
positive,
somewhere.
so we are going to figure out why. I can feel these counter lungs are deflating,
Yeah.
so we are not holding positive pressure. Where, I don't know.
I'm hearing a leak around here.
And by the way, this is a great way to check, is to listen for a leak. Found it?
The computer connector.
There you go. So where the computer connects, there's an O-ring in there as well. Air was coming out. I'm glad we're showing you, here's a unit that did not pass the positive check. So what do? For sure we would not dive this unit. We fix it. If we can't fix it, you can't dive the unit. So he'll fix it and then we'll redo the positive check. Funny, I knew right away it wasn't holding because I was like, wow, these are getting soft quickly. They should stay really firm if this works. Ooh, that was pretty loose, so I bet you this is gonna fix the problem pretty quickly. So, Gus caught the error. He fixed it. It was a little leak in the computer cable. Now look at the counter lungs. Now when we listen, we hear nothing, but let's confirm it digitally. Look at his PO2, all holding. Millivolts, all staying steady. And you need to do this for about 1 minute. Little movement on the millivolts is okay, but for the most part, they're right on target.
Yeah, I mean, they're not moving. It's just if you put pressure on the counter lungs, they will jump up because you increase the pressure.
It's that sensitive. So just notice, positive, holding, that means this unit is not going to leak bubbles. However, we need to do the opposite and do a negative check. But this is a good time to complete the positive. So when you pop the DSV open, we should hear a puff, counter lungs collapse, PO2 should drop.
Ready?
Heard the puff. Look at the PO2, that's down to 0.17. Millivolts are dropping.
Yep.
That shows that he had a good positive. So now he's going to basically inhale as hard as he can to do a negative pressure check. The counter lungs are going to crimp. The PO2 will go down. And what are we doing? We are making sure the counter lungs are holding the collapse position for at least 1 minute.
Paper thin.
And we're gonna make sure that this holds, and it holds steady, the millivolts and the PO2, for 1 minute.
And notice that some of them will jump up and down, so let me point that out. You will see like this first sensor will do 0.5 and then back to 0.4. What you don't wanna see is for it to go 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 and start going up. That means air is getting in the unit and your millivolts are going up. So the fact that it's just jumping there, it means it's like 0.495, 495 is just up and down. So that's okay. We just don't want it to go steady up.
I would call
The other
this,
two are dead on. 8.4, this one at 8.8 and back to 8.7. So it's not going up, 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 up.
and the PO2 is holding steady. The
Yep.
counter lungs are still cramped. I would call this a good negative check. Final step though is he's gonna pop it, listen to the puff, and these should actually go up a little. Boom. See if the millivolts move up. Look at the millivolts climbing and the PO2 climbing.
Perfect.
So we have a perfect negative check.
Awesome.
Okay. moving forward, we are now going into our 100% oxygen test. Okay, this is going to get it into the linearity check. We are verifying the accuracy of the cells. Let me explain the concept, and then you can simply do the math on the checklist. But I want you to understand this. We know that the millivolts on air should be at a particular range, right? They should, and on oxygen, we know that whatever the millivolts are reading on pure air,
Which this is not, it's a little bit lower.
we will make it that, whatever they're reading on pure air, we know mathematically they have to be 4.76 times more when we fill this up with pure oxygen. Okay? We know that, it's just pure math. Then what we are going to do is we're going to finish this entire check by going underwater to 20 feet, doing a 100% oxygen check. We will see if the PO2, first of all, if it reads high, how close it will get to 1.6, and see how accurate it is, because we now know that it should be within a certain range of doing it here on the surface.
Yep.
So we're able to check the accuracy mathematically of the counterlungs, and that's what we're doing. So here we go. Fill them up, and we want to make this one. We're basically here at the surface, but we're in Atlanta, Georgia. This is probably about 1,000 feet, so I'm guessing you're not going to be able to get it past probably 0.94, 0.95. And then we're going to write down the millivolts of all three sensors on oxygen. Just let it circulate through. You may have to add a little more.
Yep.
It's going to climb slowly. And you want to do this, this is a Mike Young trick, you want to do this to where you are not all the way close. He likes to open it about halfway, so you're not getting an artificial positive pressure. You want ambient pressure in the system.
Yeah.
Oh, these are looking pretty good. This is also a good time to calibrate them. Since you're at 100%, you can now go ahead and calibrate, or you're close to 100%. You're here in Atlanta, so that's about as close as they're gonna get. So we go 1, 2, 3 clicks, right click, calibrate, calibrate, confirm. All three, I said it would be about 0.95, 0.96. And we're now going to read the millivolts. So the millivolts are on oxygen. Oh, right. 51, 49, 52. 51, 49, 52. Okay? You're going to write those numbers down, and we're going to use them again in a minute. Okay, your next step is we're going to attach your diluent regulator via low pressure inflator hose, and we're going to verify that this ADV works, that it will in fact add diluent gas. So Gus will have to connect a low pressure inflator hose that will be connected to an 80 cubic foot tank and a regulator, a open circuit regulator that would just be sitting on his neck, that will be connected to his BCD tank, and we're gonna check the ADV, make sure it works.
Let's do it.
Gus connected his ADV. We have a tank right down here, and he's just checking his ADV. It should fill up the counterlungs. Perfect. That's it for that check. It's very easy. We're almost done, guys. The next thing you're gonna do is simply streamline your hoses, which Gus has already done. It's nice and tucked in. There's nothing sticking out. Unit looks great. And finally,
This goes
before
under
you
my
do,
arm, by the way, like
yeah,
this.
under his arm, this would connect back here. Just in theory, he's wearing a tank, right? There would be a hose coming off this tank. Gus could connect it right here. Simple, sits right there. He has his regulator right here. Perfect. Okay, everybody, so now I'm here to show you the proper positioning of the unit on your body. Obviously, you're gonna be in dive position, but we find if you wear it up high, your counter lungs actually sit very close to where your lungs are. Notice that they are unobstructed. There's nothing trapping them in the BC, and by being near your lungs, it makes the work of breathing wonderful. So we keep it up high. This is your bailout regulator. Sits right here. Your loop is right here, and you're in the dive position. Works great. And the final thing you would do is you would pre-breathe this unit. Basically, you're sitting down 3 to 5 minutes, pre-breathe it. You're making sure everything is functioning, your computer's working, you're not getting dizzy, you're rechecking your loop hoses.
What we're doing is also rechecking our gases. So I will be able to lower the unit just by adding DIL and confirming in my computer that, yep, in fact, I have air or nitrox or whatever it is. It came down all the way to 0.21 or 0.32. You're doing this at the boat, basically, before we go diving, or whatever, before you go diving. And then I can add the oxygen and make sure it goes all the way to 0.98 or whatever it is. So by pre-breathing the unit, I'm confirming the gases that I already programmed into the computer as well.
And when you do pre-breathe it, wear a mask so you're not cheating. In other words, we want you to breathe in and out of the unit. If you wear a mask, it blocks your nose.
And also, put your tongue on the roof of your mouth so you're not blowing back into it, because you're adding oxygen and then you're breathing back into the unit, and then you're like, oh, this is wrong. I cannot get it more than 0.7. That's because you're blowing back in.
Yeah.
So.
Final portion of all of this, it's on your checklist. It's the linearity worksheet, and we made it super easy. You can look at our linearity worksheet, and basically it's going to tell you, after you complete the final step at 20 feet, the accuracy of your O2 sensor's ability to read high. And if it's below 80%, you would change that particular sensor. I have an example of just a bunch of ones with numbers. I'm not gonna go through it. It explains itself. We filled in all the numbers from everything we did, and notice that one of them mathematically was not at 80% or above, so 85% or above, 85% or above. So change it. And no matter what, we change them after 1 year. So we date our O2 sensors. That is on our checklist. You can complete that linearity check yourself. You will also do that with your instructor as a skill checkoff. But I would say it's time for you to go diving on your go. This baby's ready to go.